Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah. How are you doing, Hassan?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
Uh,
Yeah, we haven't had a class in a while. Me and Mufti Farhan have been quite we've been a little busy. We traveled a couple of places and kind of getting the next courses ready. So it took a while.
hmm
So how's everything with you?
it's good. I started school, so we're
Okay,
doing good.
mashallah. You're in high school?
Yes, freshman.
Freshman in high school. Okay, mashallah. For some reason I thought you were much older. Okay,
So,
mashallah. Mashallah. That's very good.
thank you.
Um, okay. What was the last subject that we uh, covered together that you remember? I think was it the fiqh or the sirah class, or it was the Islamic
Yeah, I think it was.
Islamic Islamic mentality.
Yeah. Some.
Yeah. Okay. 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 One moment. I'm just pulling up some of the slides for this. Hmm. Okay, inshallah. So let me open. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. So, inshallah, we'll have. Actually, I'm also teaching an Aqidah class for another group of students right before
Mhm.
this, but this will be kind of similar but a little bit different. So, before we get like right into talking about what Aqidah is and belief, let's just talk about um, three ways that humans can know some know anything, right? Know any fact or
Mhm.
any fact. Okay, so let's brainstorm together. What would you say is one way that we can come to know of something?
Come to know of some. We can read about it. We can research it.
Okay, so that's what does it mean by research? Like, what do you do in research?
Research. You learn more about it. You can learn about more sources of it, and possibly something like that.
Yeah, I guess the question is more like very in the very basic way. So basically, if you want to know if you want to know if it's raining outside, like something as basic as that, what would you do?
I would look outside.
You would just look, right?
Uh-huh.
So what is that an example of?
Um,
You just
Vision.
see something, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's the five senses,
Right.
right? So that's the most basic way of knowing something, the five
Uh,
senses, right? Seeing something, hearing, feeling, smelling, etc. This is one way of, you could say, knowing something. So what I'm trying to get at is every human, you know, we all have the same capabilities of coming to know things. But at the same time, so many people have differences of opinions. So many people have different beliefs. So many people say this is true, and others people say no, this is not true.
right.
How can that be possible if we all have the same abilities, right? So it's like saying I have a set of eyes. This other person has a set of eyes. We both look up, and one person sees the sky is blue, and other person says the sky is red. What
Mm-hmm.
what will you say in that case?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I'm very sorry.
No problem. You have two sets of people, right? One person looks up and he says the sky is blue. Another person looks up and he says the sky is red. They both have eyes. They both have vision, right? So what's going on here? How do you know who's saying the truth?
You look up at the sky yourself.
Yeah. So what would you say about the person who looks up and says the sky is red?
Well, is he okay?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Is he okay? Is he, or he could just be lying, right? But
Right.
basically, it's something so basic, it's so simple that you know that something must be wrong, right, with the person. Either they're some, maybe they're wearing red sunglasses, or they, something is wrong with their ability to see. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
then what's another way of knowing something? Like, let's say there's some smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that information give you? What
There's some.
information does that give you?
There was maybe a fire of some
Yeah,
sort.
but you never saw the fire, right?
Right.
So this is not an example of the five senses anymore. This is, do you know what this would be an example of?
Inferring.
Yes, inference, and you could say in another way, logic.
Right.
Logic is something where you don't have to necessarily use your five senses. You can learn things, and this is, even animals kind of have a sense of logic where if you if you do something to them, like for example, they hear like the bag of food, so then they know, oh, there's food there. Although if you think just a ruffling sound, what does that show? It's just a ruffling sound, but they've attributed it to food. So it's like humans. We learn things. We see fire. Sorry, we see smoke. We don't see a fire, but you would say yes. It's true that there is a fire somewhere, or that there was a fire. There has to be something.
Right.
Okay, so that is logic. So we have our senses, we have our logic, and there's one more thing that gives us information, and that's what you said in the beginning, actually, which is when you read something, right? Reading, or when you hear something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
maybe one person saw the fire, okay? So he's using his senses. Another person, he just saw smoke, and he logically concluded that there's a fire. But the third, now this person goes and tells a third person, hey, there was a fire there. Okay.
Right.
So this third person, you say that he can say there's a fire there, although he did not see it. He did not logically come to the conclusion, rather, he was told. So the third type is a report. Okay.
Right.
Just like, you know, there's many countries which we haven't been to, but we know they exist.
Right.
We didn't see it. We didn't go there, right? So that's number one. Yes, maybe you could use some logic. You're using your logic, right? You're using your logic. Like, there's no way, this country is on the map and so many people talk about it. There's a language, and then you're just gonna go and say that the country doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Say that person is illogical. That person is disbelieving in something that is so basic, or so, you could say, um, so widespread, that it's impossible to say that all these people made it up. Okay.
Right.
Now from there, right, the using modern science, or modern scientists, they generally don't believe, or they don't want to believe in something um that they can't see,
Right.
right? Like, you can't see it, you can't believe it, right? If you see it, then you believe it.
Right.
What do they're all about, doing this experiment, and diving in the ocean, exploring space. If they don't see it, then they don't believe it. So how can you, you know argue with them, or how can you, discuss with them, if they are throwing out logic, right? They're throwing out
Right.
logic. They're throwing out reports. So reports, that includes, right, like history, that includes, you could say, even um, Islamic reports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when the Quran says that, for example, when the Quran says that um, Musa alayhi salam, he was, as non-Muslims or Christians, they know him as Moses. When
Right.
he took the children of Israel, when he took the Jews at that time, he took them and he split the ocean and whatever. Then we know
Yeah.
this to be something true. We know this to be something true because it was passed down to us from such a source that is so well preserved, right? There's no other book or text or report that is that well preserved. And to give an example, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when each verse was revealed, he instantly memorized it. Okay, and he would teach it to the companions, and they would preserve it, they would memorize it, even they would write it down until, you know, there are so many people like in Taraweeh, if the Imam makes one mistake in Surah Fatiha, in Surah Nas, or whatever, you have the whole masjid just blurting out because everyone knows that you said this one letter incorrectly. And this
Mm-hmm.
for one masjid, this is all over the world, that you don't have any differences in even a single letter from for the past, 50, almost 1500 years. You don't have that. So there's no other, whether they're atheists, right, scientists, historians, or any other religion that has that, right? For example, take the Bible. Bible has, the Christians, none of them memorize it. Even if someone has memorized the Bible, then they're a very select few, but they don't memorize it like how we memorize it. In Islam, we are so, encouraged to memorize the Quran, and that's you could say one purpose of that is so that we preserve it. That
Right.
if someone was to, for some reason, obliterate so many, places of worship of Muslims and remove the Qurans, like burned all the Qurans, remove them, may Allah protect us from that. If they did that, there would still be thousands of people who have it memorized by their heart. So, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allowed the books of the previous religions, He allowed them to not be preserved because He knew the final word and the final message is going to be the Quran. So, what people would do is they would change verses here and there. They believed in Isa Islam was, that he was the God, that he was the son of God, and then they
Right.
changed, they added verses. In one point in history, the entire, the actual original, you could say Bible or biblical text was lost. They lost track of it, and so there was no preservation as there was with the Quran, right? So I guess it would be good to dedicate maybe one day of this class to talk about how well the Quran was preserved. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, like I said, every single letter was preserved. There's nothing else that preserved. There's nothing else that is uh, so strictly unchanged as the Quran. Um, let me try to pick up this slide. Do you have any questions until now?
No, no, I think we're good.
Okay, let me try to pick this up. Okay, so let me briefly try to. Okay, let me try to share this slide. Yeah, this may be a bit. I'm just gonna keep these here. You don't have to worry too much about what's written here. It's a little bit, you could say it might maybe a little bit confusing or difficult to understand. Let me try to take this out actually. Mm, okay, I think these will we'll have to wait. This is a bit, yeah. Let's skip out on this for now. So let's try to like naturally walk through a logical reason, right? Because why do people disbelieve in God, and why do people believe in God? Like I said, all humans, we all have the same ability, right? We have the same senses, we have the same, logical capability. All some people are smarter, some people are not as intelligent. That's different, but we all have, the same logical capability. So if someone disbelieves, before we get to Islam, right? So first we want to establish that there is a God. Okay. So
Hmm.
once we establish that there is a God, then you'll see, then how we establish that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first we have two possibilities, right? If you ever heard anything what atheists say, there's one possibility that they say there was nothing that existed, and then the universe existed. Okay.
Hmm.
And then there's another possibility that the universe always existed. Okay, so people who disbelieve in God, they'll say these things. They'll say either there was nothing and then the universe came into existence,
Right,
or
the Big Bang or whatever.
yes, yes. So let's try to look at both of these and see, is this a logical thing that we can agree on, or is there something that doesn't make sense? Okay, let's go with the first option. Um, uh, I don't even know how to try to explain this because it's so obvious, but something that comes from nothing. Okay, how does that even happen? How can something come from nothing without any cause, without any purpose, uh,
Right,
without any beginning? Because if we look in our own universe, right, there's no place in the universe, um, whether that's in our world or anywhere else in the entire universe, and every scientist will have to agree as well that there's no place or nothing in the universe where something happens without a cause, where something just pops into existence without any beginning or without any cause, right? So that if everything in the universe has a cause, then it's impossible that the entire universe just happened from nothing, right?
right,
The way people try to explain, they'll say, "Oh, there's something called negative energy, and when you have negative and positive, if you have negative and positive, they cancel out, and it
right,
equals 0." And they'll say all of then, so technically there was nothing, but there was negative and positive energy, and then at one point the positive energy just kind of overtook the negative, and it caused this big bang reaction, and then everything came into existence. That's one.
right.
Other people say it was like it's just a chance. There's a funny thing that some people make an example. They'll say that if you have like 100 monkeys in a forest, and if you give them all typewriters, then eventually they'll write the whole Shakespeare. Like they're just typing random letters, typing here and there. Whether it takes 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years, eventually there is like a tiny chance that they will write the whole Shakespeare. You could say,
Books or whatever, or
yeah,
plates.
stories. It's
Hmm.
almost like saying, like if you just sit at a keyboard and you just type away, just typing random letters, there'll be like 1% or half a percent chance that a real word will be typed. And we'll say, yeah, that's possible. But you're saying the whole universe came into existence like that? That's you know, for I don't know how you would think about that. I don't even know like how to even defend that. It's
Right,
so like it's so silly.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in the universe that happens like that.
Right.
The other option is that the universe always existed. So some people who don't believe in necessarily the Big Bang, they'll say, yeah, the universe always existed. So they try to,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say it just always existed. But that also will say, um, how can something always exist, right? There has to be some beginning. Because in our world, again, we compare the beginning of the universe to our own experiences, right? A person comes into life, they had a beginning, um, and if the universe always existed, that means time always existed before it, and it just kept going and going, going. Like in math, you have a number line,
Right.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
imagine. Let me maybe draw. You're not on the board, but let me see if I can. Oh, whiteboard. Yeah, let me see. Okay, so you see this whiteboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you able, are you able to see the whiteboard?
Yep.
Okay, so let me draw. See how this is.